This video is sponsored by Thrive Market. Harvest season is fun and exciting. It's pretty much over for us now. We've got all of our staple crops harvested. Most of them are in jars, in the fridge, in the root cellar for the winter. So now it's time to do some of the less glamorous jobs in the garden. We do still have a couple more things to harvest though today, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. There's a lot of cleaning up, cleaning out, shoveling manure and things like that that just aren't quite as cool as the big, beautiful harvest that we do during the summer and early fall. And that's some of the stuff that we want to talk about today in between some of the harvesting that we're doing.
Today is garden cleanup day, and it's not necessarily our favorite job ever, but it's all hands on deck today. The kids don't always enjoy days like this, but I think it's good for them to know all that goes into the making of their food. So we are going to try to get as much done as we can today, and then we'll keep ourselves motivated by thinking about a treat that we're gonna make tonight. Really excited about that. Fall is my favorite time of year, and I'm gonna spend as much time outside as I possibly can. But I do have to think about getting everything done out here so that I can focus indoors because I'm gonna start homeschool soon. I do my best to not sit around and whine and pity myself about seasons coming to an end that I love. I try to just immerse myself in the season that's happening right away. I'll be outside some. I just want to get everything done out here so that there's not that like nagging thing in the back of my mind that, oh, there's stuff in the garden that needs to be done. I just want to get everything cleaned out of the garden, even the tomatoes that are still bearing a little bit. I just want everything cleaned out so that I can have a more singular focus, because when I have too many things on my mind, I don't do very well.
Starting here in the garden with the loofahs, this is something that I had wanted. If you remember, it was on my list of goals for this year, is just to trellis something. If you remember in the video we did last year about our goals, I said that I wanted to trellis something. I just thought it would be really cool to trellis something. The idea I had was to do this really cool, you know, arch trellis or something. That didn't get done, but we did trellis our cucumbers, so maybe that was a little bit of an intro, and this year I'll actually do something cool. Just so happened that some subscribers sent us some loofah seeds. Thank you so much for that, because these turned out really well and it was a lot of fun. This trellis here did exactly what I wanted it to do. I just thought it would create this little bit of magic in the garden. It's so cool to be able to like walk through it, and it just like was a little place of peace, I guess. Every once in a while I'd just come and stand inside of it and just enjoy the garden. But now it's time to take it down because Michelle wants everything cleaned out of here.
This is my first year doing loofahs, and honestly I just did these for fun. I'm not like all serious about these loofahs. You can't eat them unless they're like tiny. You can eat them like zucchini. But at this stage, I'm gonna make them into sponges. You can harvest these at different stages. My preference is to harvest them when they're crispy brown, because the skin just peels off, and then you can just shake the seeds out, and it's just really, really easy. You can also harvest them when they're yellow like this, as long as when you press on them, it sounds like Velcro. Like you can hear the skin kind of coming away from the actual sponge inside. The sponge is going to be lighter and a little bit softer, not as coarse and dark. The downside then to harvesting them when they're younger like this is that they're still like wet and gooey inside, and it's kind of disgusting, and you have to spray the gunk out of the middle. And we're going to tear these plants out, so I'm just harvesting anything that's harvestable, the yellow ones and the brown ones, and leaving the green ones. The green ones we'll either give to the chickens or compost or something like that.
This hand pruner sucks.
This scissor sticks. Here are the seeds from this guy right here. They just pour out, and I was told that the seeds from the nice brown crispy ones are all ready to be replanted. So I'm just gonna store these for next year, put them into a baggie or something, and these should be viable seeds for next year.
Maybe these sponges will be able to replace one thing we buy at the store, and we try to grow as much of our own food as possible, but there are still things that we do need to buy. We're not too far from a small town, but the selection can be very limited when it comes to healthy products, and sometimes they're just downright expensive. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Thrive Market. It's an online membership-based grocery store with a huge selection of healthy products at great prices that you can easily order and get shipped straight to your door. So let me show you what we got in our last order. First of all, 7th generation products. This is dishwashing detergent and dish soap. Michelle really likes 7th generation products. They're a lot cleaner, and we can definitely get them cheaper on Thrive Market. We got our collagen. This is something that I use in my chocolate milk every morning. We use in smoothies and stuff. They changed the packaging on us, but this is the same thing that we've been getting for a while. This is the Great Lakes collagen. Really like this stuff, and we get a really good price on Thrive Market. One thing that we really love about Thrive is that we can get healthy swaps on there. We really like potato chips, but one thing that we've been trying to get out of our diet is seed oils. These potato chips here are made with avocado oil, and this is something that we definitely cannot get at our local grocery store. This is organic bread flour. This is something that we also can't get at our local grocery store. You can get organic all-purpose flour, but Michelle really likes the organic bread flour, and this is what she uses for her sourdough bread. So for us, Thrive is about finding products that we can't find locally, finding healthy swaps, and saving money. They actually have a guaranteed savings on every order, and if you find a lower price on something somewhere else, they'll match it. So if you want to start saving money today, just go to the link in our description box. That's thrivemarket.com/morethanfarmers to get 30% off your first order, plus a free gift worth up to $60.
This next bed here is still looking really, really good, and I'm still harvesting basil. I used a ton of basil in all of my tomato sauces that I canned, and so I'm still wanting to keep this massive basil bush here for drying more basil for the winter. So I'm not going to take this basil plant out yet. I'm pretty proud of this thing. It's from one seed that I started last winter, and it turned into this massive bush. So never be afraid to prune your basil plants, your herb plants. It just makes them bigger and bushier. And you want to keep these little seed heads right here, you want to keep those picked off, because those will tell your plant to stop producing leaves and to put all of their effort into reproducing, like making seeds. So I just tear those off. I just find the thing of the potential in one seed to be so incredibly fascinating. One seed, tiny, like tinier than a pinhead, gave me enough basil to last us for an entire year, and we use quite a lot of basil. That's just amazing. Another key, I feel like, to the success of this basil plant was that I put a tomato cage on it. I had 2 basil plants right next to each other, and one of them I got a tomato cage on and the other I didn't. When the other one got big, it broke off in a windstorm. So this one was protected, which it allowed it to get really huge. These peppers are still doing really well, and we're eating a lot of these fresh, so I'm not going to take these out. These won't take long to just pull out once the frost hits. Beautiful red peppers. These cucumbers are looking absolutely terrible, but amazingly enough, they're bearing cucumbers. Like, not the greatest cucumbers or anything, but I don't know. I guess I'll let these stay because it'll take me 2 seconds to pull these plants out after the frost hits. So I'm just gonna leave these in here. I don't really pay any attention to them, as you can tell. But if they're still giving me cucumbers, that's something valuable enough to me that I will leave these here for a while yet, because cucumbers are my favorite. This thyme here has been here now for 2 years. It didn't die last winter. So I'm just going to harvest what I need off of this. This stuff is crazy. fun fact, this one's free. When you pull up your zinnias, you can see here that the seed is on the end of the petal. So if you just pull off the flower heads, dry them up, save them in a bag, you can just spread the petals in the soil the next spring and you'll have zinnias. It's pretty cool.
There are just a few little butternut squash left on these plants here that we can salvage before we pull these out. These are pretty well spent though. They're ready to be torn out. Super happy with how they did this year though. This is definitely by far the best year we've ever had for butternut squash. The butternut squash got nice and big. If you remember from one of our past videos, we have a winner. 7 pounds, 12 ounces for this butternut squash.
That's bigger than my babies were.
I think it had a lot to do with the trellising. I think there was just a whole lot more airflow in here. They were able to have space to grow. We didn't have near the bug pressure or the disease pressure, and we really didn't do anything different this year except for the trellis. So definitely gonna be doing this again next year.
Hey, darling, can I tell you what's been on my mind? Sick and tired of the 9 to 5 in the city light. Hey, darling, we could get out of town, see the beautiful world around, wanna see it now. Pack our bags and get in that car, leave a little note and we'll drive real far. Let's get out, we can leave this city. Let's drive to the open air. Yeah, the countryside is so pretty, with the wind blowing in your hair. We can look back someday, baby, don't you understand that we only get one life? I wanna make it count, honey. Come on now and take my hand.
We all went in and took a rest, and now we're back out here ready to take all this corn down. So the popcorn is all ready to go. Now you can see everything is just completely dried out and crispy. These cobs are looking a little small. Pretty sure the drought affected them. They'll still taste great, but they are pretty small. I will say ladyfinger is a very tiny cob. So I would say this is like a very medium size. We're gonna have Izzy machete all these corn stalks down and we'll compost them. And there's something really exciting, kind of-ish happening. We're feeling just a few raindrops. There's no rain in the forecast, so I don't know if it's actually gonna rain, but it feels like it could rain and we're really excited. So now what you guys need to do is just pull these skins off like this. It's really easy, just pull it off like that. See, this is how long they should be, right here. That's a really nice one. So you can test and see if your popcorn is dry enough to pop by if you press the kernel with your fingernail, if it leaves a big dent, and then you're gonna have to let it dry more. Also, popcorn can get too dry to pop, so you don't want it too wet or too dry. We're really hoping this stuff will pop because we have a treat we wanna make tonight. We'll see.
We actually haven't grown popcorn in a few years because we had some left over from like a couple of years ago and it lasts like forever in our basement, but it was time to grow some more. This is ladyfinger popcorn. I think Michelle mentioned it is our absolute favorite popcorn. We've tried a couple others. There was like a strawberry one, I think, which is like little cobs that are red, kind of cool, but they just didn't perform quite as well. We did Dakota Black. Those are really cool. That's like a black kernel, and when you pop it, it's an extra white popcorn and it has a black center. It looks really pretty and it's a nice size and stuff, but it's just not quite as like tender and tasty as a ladyfinger. The funny thing about popcorn is I think it's one of my favorite things to grow, just because I think in my head when I think of popcorn, it's like very commercialized, like almost like a Twinkie or something. So like in my head, growing popcorn is like growing a Twinkie. But what's funny about it is that even though I think it's really cool to grow, I actually don't really just love eating just salted popcorn. I do love a special kind of popcorn that Michelle is gonna make tonight. It's one of my absolute favorite foods. So stay tuned for that.
Hey, darling, I love it when it's me and you on the road with a couple of tunes in a car for two. Hey, darling, you know we're gonna have a really good time, driving in the middle of the night when the stars are bright. Pack our bags and get in that car, leave a little note and we'll drive real far. Let's get out, we can leave this city, let's drive to the open air. Yeah, the countryside is so pretty, with the wind blowing in your hair. We can look back someday, baby, don't you understand that we only get one life? I wanna make it count, honey, come on now and take my hand. Let's get out, we can leave this city.
While the kids and Cody finish up the corn, I'm gonna start working on these tomatoes. So these tomatoes are definitely still bearing, but I have tons and tons of sauces canned. Here is all of my barbecue sauce. We are barbecue sauce fanatics. We have been eating them fresh. I've been giving them to friends, and my friends are all like, we don't need any more tomatoes. And so I'm gonna take these out. I could leave these in and they would continue giving me tomatoes. But frankly, I don't have time to stay out here watering them. That's a huge piece of it this year. They only bear if I water them really well. I just don't have the capacity to be working in the garden while I am inside holding down the fort with homeschool and stuff. I'm gonna pick the tomatoes that, as long as they have like the tiniest orange blush, I'm gonna pick them and they'll ripen up on the porch. I'm also gonna pick some green tomatoes and take those up on the porch, and we're gonna try some fried green tomatoes for the first time. I've had them in my childhood. I don't remember how they taste, so we're just gonna see how it works. Most of the tomatoes along the bottom of these plants are completely gone because the ducks hang out under here, and this is like their food forest. So they eat all the ones along the bottom, and I'm just okay with it because we're not eating them all. So many people tell me that growing their own food is too hard and therefore they could never do it, and I totally get that. I do understand. I know how all-consuming growing food can be. I've found in the past that it can completely take over my life if I let it. So I've set up boundaries for myself when it comes to gardening and other homestead chores. It was really hard for me to pull up my tomato plants that were still bearing and essentially say goodbye to my garden for the year. Even the kids were a little sad. There's so many gardeners who do succession plantings and keep their garden going late into fall and then even into winter. I think that year-round gardening sounds fun, and someday I'm sure I'll dabble with it, but for now, I've set up boundaries around my gardening so that I can stay sane and give my kids the attention that they need.
I don't really want to use the corn stalks for bedding for the cow because I don't want to deal with trying to like pitchfork the manure out of there with big stalks in there. But these husks right here should work really good. So I'm going to dump these in the corral. I'm going to distract him with some feed so he doesn't try to play with me by pushing me around. Ah.
I don't do succession plantings beyond a bed of carrots and some greens here and there. Having something fresh and green to look at in the fall when everything else is turning brown is really therapeutic for me, but it doesn't really take up any of my time. I personally find it far more efficient in my stage of life to grow a massive amount of each crop all at one time than to spread it out with succession plantings. I do realize that we won't then have access to fresh picked veggies all through the fall and into winter that way, but it's a sacrifice that's well worth it to me. We'll still be eating food that we grew. Having the time to relax and enjoy my kids and go on backpacking trips and adventures is equally healthy in my opinion. Garden guilt is a thing. There's always more you could be doing when it comes to growing food, but we all have the same amount of hours in a day, and consuming quality food is only one piece of living a healthy life. So while there are people who think that pulling up a plant that's still bearing is a waste, I don't see it that way. My 10 tomato plants gave me hundreds of pounds of tomatoes. I have enough sauces on my shelves to last a solid year. My friends have sauces on their shelves, and my ducks have had many a meal from those plants. They've served their purpose, and now it's time to move on to other important things. Never let your garden or your homestead control you and run you down. There's nothing wrong with needing a break, and in fact, there's everything right about taking a break. This thing right here is called a little stripper. I did not give it that name. It's legit, that's the brand name. And it works really good for shelling this ladyfinger popcorn. Ladyfinger can be a little bit hard to shell because it's so small. This works pretty good. Some of the ears that are really tiny are kind of hard with this thing, but works pretty good. We've had a really long day and we're all tired and a little bit grumpy. So we're gonna go cheer ourselves up with some caramel popcorn. This is one of our favorite recipes. I don't make it very often because it's pretty sugary, but we're gonna walk you through the process and I think we'll all have a lot of fun. I'm gonna shell some of this and just try to pop a tiny bit of it. I don't wanna waste any of it, so I'm just going to try to pop a little bit. If it pops, we'll use this fresh stuff. If it doesn't, we'll go to the basement and use some from other years. The stuff from the store often leaves a lot of unpopped kernels in the bottom of the kettle, but my homegrown popcorn, there's almost no old maids. Here again, I don't know why they're called old maids. I wasn't the one who gave them that name. I think it's gonna go.
There we go.
There's quite a few like unpopped or semi-popped ones in the bottom. I do think that it needs to dry a little bit more. We did a couple popperfuls of the fresh popcorn from today, and most of it popped right, but then there was a bunch of pieces in the bottom that didn't completely pop. So instead of wasting it, we're just going to go ahead and use some from last year. So Cody quick shelled some up and we're gonna pop this. We really like this whirly popcorn popper. We've had this for quite a few years. Honestly, we got it at Goodwill, but we'll leave a link for one that you can get on Amazon. Woo, it's going crazy. Check that out. There's like no kernels, no unpopped kernels in the bottom. This caramel popcorn recipe is super simple. It has really simple ingredients, but it does take a bit of patience, put it that way. You have to stand here and you have to let your butter, maple syrup, and salt get all the way up to like 300 degrees. I usually don't have it get quite there because it like almost starts to burn by the time it gets there, but you want it as close as possible before it burns so that it gets like really crunchy, because if you don't, your popcorn will be gummy and that's not very good. Okay, it's at 280, 285, almost there. Okay, there we go, there we go. You have to do this pretty quickly because this stuff hardens super fast once it hits the cold air.
By the time we got done in the garden out there, it was a little sad seeing how empty it was, but we are so thankful for all the harvest that we got this year. I put together a playlist of videos of our harvest for this year that you can click to watch next and just see all the bounty that we got. And don't forget to go to thrivemarket.com/morethanfarmers to get 30% off your first order plus a free gift.